All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next panel conversation entitled Creating a VIP Digital Fan Experience. We have three really awesome speakers. It creates a really well-rounded panel. I'm excited to bring them on stage and have the next 35 minutes with them to chat through a number of topics related to the VIP Digital Fan Experience. So I'd love to welcome Lenny Go, VP of Business Development at Tradable Bits. Jeff Sakaguchi, Director of Digital and Product for the San Antonio Spurs, and David Workman, Director of Software Engineering at MLSE. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Really pleased to have you here today. I want to get it teed up just by kind of asking the three of you, and I guess, Lenny, I'll go top right, have you be our leadoff batter if you don't mind. We'll just kind of have a stage setter for the audience. If you can give us an overview of your role with Tradable Bits, and also you guys obviously have a very unique partnership with MLSE. So I'd love an overview of your role in that partnership, and then Jeff will go to you, and Dave will go to you, kind of in that order to set the tone. But Lenny, please.
Great, thanks for having me. So I'm VP of Business Development at Tradable Bits. We're a fan data platform focused specifically for sports, music, and entertainment. So like you mentioned, longtime partners with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment here, and middle of the pandemic, got to innovate together and build out what you see today is our digital arena experience overall. And we've been collaborating together as partners across digital and the global partnership side for a number of years before. So being able to really work together rather as a partner rather than a vendor has been the best part of the relationship between MLSE and Tradable Bits overall. And in terms of what we're trying to do and coming up in 2022, really focus on continuing the growth in sports, music, and entertainment brands. Providing a fan data platform, first party data is so important these days with the changing state of digital marketing. So that's continuing the growth there as properties come back to live experiences, and then expanding within Australia and APAC, as well as Europe as well too.
Love it, Lenny. Thank you. And Jeff, over to you.
Yeah, I'm the Senior Director of Digital Strategy and Engagement for the San Antonio Spurs. And I oversee three verticals at the organization. The first one is social media and branded content with our partnerships group. The second is team apps, which I'm sure we're going to get into today. And then websites across our different franchises in the organization. Was here it's been about 3 years. And then prior to that, just on a personal level, was with the Denver Broncos in a similar role. And then the NFL League office in their media division in Los Angeles. But excited to be part of the conversation, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. David?
Hello, I am the Senior Director of the Technology and Digital team here at Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. So I lead the team, this amazing team that builds out the digital experiences for our fans and for our teams and for our internal folks at MLSE. As far as my background goes, I've been here for a couple of years now. Have a wide variety of technology background, leading a lot of different teams from a lot of different areas. And our top priorities right now are kind of focused in three tiers. One, like Jeff and everybody else, we are coming out of COVID. So we have to make sure that we are able to support our business as we get back on our feet. So we have a huge priority focus on that. We are at our very core. We really like to set the pace for technology and sports entertainment. So we are heavily focused on R&D and finding new opportunities to optimize how our business operates, bring new experiences to our fans, and how we can then extend those opportunities out to our clients. And then finally is, of course, the products we already have. What can we learn from them? How can we improve those, expand out their experiences, and re-envision new ways of bringing value to fans through the experience that we've built with folks like Tradable Bits.
Love it. Well, thanks, guys, for the overview. And to the audience, now that you kind of have an overview of the background of Lenny, Jeff, and David here, kind of what their priorities are right now, please submit your questions during the chat. We love to try to embed your questions throughout. I'll do my best to work them in. So that's a reminder to you, and just use that chat feature on the right-hand side here. David, I'd love to stay with you. You touched on, obviously, your background, and we're in a digital environment right now, or the attendees are, and they're moving us through it. That is very unique. I don't know of a lot of sports teams that have really kind of tried to build their own environment like this. We'd love for you to give a little bit of a background there, like how long did this take? When was it first conceived? How do you work with Tradable Bits? I think that'll be a really unique partnership to touch on, because it's perfect. It's a digital experience for fans. You've added some really cool bells and whistles that we get a sneak peek at with some of the games here we're seeing today. But this is something that's not just for a virtual conference like this. It can be used for fan bases all over. So love an overview there.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I mean, the digital arena is born out of COVID, straight up. Obviously, we, like everybody else in the industry, had a real challenge when COVID hit, and that our venues were empty, right? Or in our case, we had restaurants, they were closed. So we obviously had to find new ways of driving revenue for the company and new ways of engaging fans, because, you know, we focus heavily on fandom in the Sports OS ecosystem. So what it means to be a fan and how you sort of connect with your team, your city, your sports. And so in COVID, if you can't attend a game, or when you watch a game, there's no crowd cheering, you lose that connection. And so we had to find ways to really keep people connected rather, with the teams that they love. So out of that came this notion of, well, can we capture some variation of the in-arena experience in the digital world? Can we have the interactions with people talking, some fun things to interact with, things of that nature to keep people engaged? And we were very fortunate that we have had a fairly long relationship with Tradable Bits, and we've leveraged them extensively on a lot of other campaigns and stuff over the years. And so the concept sort of started to come together, and the team said, okay, well, let's see if we can leverage our friends at Tradable Bits to execute on this. We looped them in, and through a highly collaborative process, we actually got the first version of this up in, I want to say it was about 4 months. It was pretty quick from inception to actual launch, with the support of Tradable Bits and the platform and the team that they had. So we got it going pretty quickly, and it's iterated a bit over the time as things sort of change. We learned lessons. 4 months is a quick build, but we always want to make sure we're trying to drive as much value as we can to the fans and give them new experiences. And so, coming out of COVID now, ideally, we're also relooking, like, what does the world look like now coming out of that, and making sure that people still have that additive experience of the digital arena. So really, yeah, to summarize again, it was born out of the necessity of digital arena. It's really turned into a core thing that really helps to bring a digital engagement to fans and a new value add to them.
I think what you just said there at the end, David, has been such a theme born out of necessity. That's been a lot of the trends we've covered at Sport Techie throughout this year and last year. So many digital products were accelerated on the roadmap during COVID because they had to be. It's what fans expected in order to be feeling safe coming back to venues, or in order to continue to engage in a digital manner with their teams. It just needed to be different offerings, customized offerings that we just hadn't seen before that were now a necessity. Lenny, would you add? I want to give you the opportunity, obviously, on the Tradable Bits, and would you want to add anything to what David just outlined from the MLSE perspective about the process of building digital arena?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, as a company ourselves, all our clients are in sports music and in entertainment, and it's mostly around live. So pandemic hits, and the whole business is rocked. So exactly, more not a necessity, but putting our heads together, talking with MLSE. I mean, initially, really what was born out of this was talking about how do we do a live trivia product. And it was like thinking about things like HQ and things like that. And, we typically worked in innovating a lot of different experiences with the GP team on the digital perspective. And it started from there, and then it's continued to evolve as we kind of put our brains together and said, okay, well, how do we create this overall fan experience? And one of the things that we saw, there was a lot of startups in the live streaming space trying to make things happen. But they would have had no data back end, nothing to understand any of the fan data side of things. And we have almost 10 years of that on the back end. So the ability to kind of layer something on top of our platform already was the unique element of how we could spin something up so quickly. And then be ready for the bubble season, which I think kicked off in around August at that time. So it was quite a feat for all the teams to kind of put their heads together and put the nose to the grindstone and really make something happen. But man, was it really fulfilling. And looking at this iterative, we're in our second season after the bubble season really now, and watching the evolution of the product in itself. And and all the lessons that we've learned around it. Like I love Christian's line of sports is better with friends. It's totally true. But what's really unique about seeing the evolution of this digital arena is the friendships that have been made online of people that have never met before, and they continue to engage together in the community. I'm sure Jeff probably sees it on the Spurs side as well too, and we've had a relationship with Jeff and Spurs Sports and Entertainment as well, at being a partner and combining everything together. Them seeing another opportunity to engage their community through this medium as well too.
Yeah, it's been an interesting partnership because we worked with Tradable Bits prior to the digital arena, and COVID hits, and we have to really look at all of our goals and objectives and completely pivot and change. And Tradable Bits lets us know that they have, a product on the roadmap that they're developing with MLSE, and all of a sudden we're working with, another team in the league on a product to bring fans closer together where they, like David mentioned, can't be in the arena together. So we had very similar objectives from a team standpoint to keep fan interest, continue to generate revenue, and really fulfill some of those contractual obligations with our partners that we couldn't do with the inventory or the lack of inventory in the arena. So it really was a necessity for us to be able to fulfill that side of things. To carry on what Lenny mentioned, I think what we didn't see coming together was the community building. We knew that we could give an avenue and a pathway for fans to interact with our team and still, watch games and be able to, simulate a little bit of that fan experience as best as possible. And we're still iterating on what that looks like. But that community building, people have now come into the arena to meet friends and to chat within each other. And that's something that we've really seen generate organically. We have a chat moderator, and the biggest goal and kind of mission statement that I have for them is you're a dinner party host. And I think that that's really been the best advice that we've seen is you're there to kind of talk to people just like you're their best friends. And that's really helped out. And people come in there for that engagement in that community.
Love it, guys. Great.
Sort of
Good.
No, I just want to sort of piggyback up what Jeff had said as well. Just like we talk about VIP in the digital world, and what does it mean to me? Like VIP largely is about getting experiences that other people don't necessarily get, right? And so that's one thing that the digital arena has done through what Jeff and Lenny are talking about, is that it builds up these relationships. And for me personally, like I absolutely, the one thing one of many things I really love about my role is I love to bring people joy. And so to see the evolution in the arena of these people who at first started to chime in, oh, I'm coming in from this section or whatever, but then start to develop those relationships that Jeff's talking about. And then as COVID started to end, to see them organizing in the system to meet up with new friends, new people, like that's the kind of, a different kind of VIP experience, because you don't get that if you're not on the platform. But it also, for myself and my team, it brings us a lot of joy. It's the closest at the time we could get to going out and seeing, the kids and their parents coming in to catch the game, that kind of joy. It was a different kind of joy, but representing the digital space. And it was really great to see.
Mm-hmm. Really, really great remark. That's well said. Audience, love it. We have some great questions coming in. David, and I want to build on the comments you just said with the question from Alan H. Thank you for the question. Does a fan engagement solution need to generate revenue from day one, or is there organizational patience to build a path to revenue? I assume there has to be a balance between some patience and obviously seeing the kind of revenue horizon there. How do you guys go about that, David, at MLSE? And then Jeff, Lenny, love to hear your thoughts on the same question.
I mean, yeah, it's a balance, right? I mean, again, we put the fandom first, fans first, so we want to make sure that they're getting an enjoyable experience and getting that value. But at the end of the day, you can't keep running something that's not going to make any revenue, right? So we have to solve that issue. So there is patience for it, but obviously internally we're accountable to improving our numbers, make sure we're starting to generate revenue. So working with our partnership team, or in our case, like commercializing the product, to make sure that there's a path forward to revenue. And our team is constantly iterating on ideas to try and refine the product, right? There's to make sure that we are finding new ways to monetize folks, to also have them stay in the platform long. And we also want to get to that position where people are they're advocates, right? You hit that certain level of passion for something, then the numbers sort of speak for themselves, and then they refer their friends and friends refer their friends, and your numbers go up. And so things like, again, revenue we could get from partners would go up because the overall interaction is much higher. So there is a patience, but of course, like everything, you do need to show results and you need to be very deliberate about it.
Thanks. Yep. Jeff?
Yeah, I think generating revenue from day one is always a great goal if that were to happen. But a way that we've been kind of on a specific example, looking at the digital arena, we didn't know what the, it took a while to get some projections and looked at what our app numbers was and some of our fan base community size and what were those projections kind of look like. And we can kind of map out what the viewership could potentially be. But what we did in the interim before we actually got those numbers is we went to market and to sell some of those pieces or as a make good. A lot of the interactive components that Lenny mentioned, and especially in trivia, we actually pipe those over to social where we do have an audience and we do have an impression set and a CPM value that we do have a rate card for. So we moved some of those over to social to subsidize a little bit of that timing. And then once we got it up to, in the hopes of getting it to enough of an impression level that we can sell it on its own, that's what we're going to do. So we look at a more of a diverse execution outside of just the new product that we're standing up, and how can we use some of the communities that we already have to generate revenue as we're kind of building up an audience for a new space.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Lenny, from a Tradable Bits perspective, you want to tackle this one?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just an overall organizational philosophy, right? About being able to try and innovate. Not everything is going to land, but you have to be willing to try and take a risk. Maybe just it's not full born, we're going to jump all the way in, but is there iterative models that you can test and see and iterate and see how that is going to work? And, nothing better than be able to do it in the digital space because it's easier to deploy and do things like that as well too. So, we've been lucky to work with a lot of our partners where they have an idea or we have an idea and we can kind of collaborate together and try these different sorts of things to make it work. And ultimately, this might lead into some of the other questions we were talking about, but because of the pandemic, we've never been more digitally connected in the world ever in history. So based on that, we already now have way more buy-in or like people are engaging in a completely different way. We've seen the QR codes fly through the roof, the way people activate off of that now, like grandma knows how to get on Zoom and order off the menu on QR codes and things like that. So the audience itself is more accepting of the digital realm in general, mm-hmm. which is a great way to be able to innovate in that sense and create more fan engagement experiences.
Mm-hmm. Alan, thank you for that question. Leah C, thank you for this upcoming question. This is an important one. How are organizations leveraging technology to improve inclusivity and diversity to create a truly VIP fan experience? She provides an example, creating an accessible and welcoming experience for those who may be hesitant but curious about engaging. I think that's a really interesting question. Jeff, I'd love your opinion first from your perspective, and David and Lenny, we can go around.
I think kind of what Lenny just mentioned, there's been a kind of a super speed of education, and especially in the digital space over the past 18 months to 2 years, that we can now do things that people were hesitant to do before from like an innovation standpoint. Like you mentioned earlier, roadmaps were pushed forward to 5 years down the line that we wouldn't have been able to do before. I think the reach of an audience and the people who are open to adoption is much different than what it was before. It used to be a small part of the curve. And I think everybody now, when you go to a restaurant and you're forced into a QR code, recognizing that in the arena, you're more likely to do it. So it's not only just the digital native, I think, is open to experiences. Everybody is now open to adopting something, and I think is okay with, the level of, personal information they might be giving up. One of the biggest goals that we had in the pandemic was just safety overall, and that was, how do we make fans and employees comfortable to come back into the arena? Well, one of the things we did was we went contactless, but knowing that somebody who might not have had an Amazon account and entered a credit card into something to pay for, they were more open to doing it because they knew that we're doing it for their safety. So I think in terms of diversity of adoption, that's something that we've been able to kind of follow the wake behind of what's been happening over the last 18 months.
And David, as you guys push more into some of these digital products that were accelerated during COVID, how are you keeping diversity, inclusivity top of mind?
I think what Jeff touched on is a great example of how we focus on things as well. But at MLSE in general, if you look at diversity from the broader sense, like there's things like neurodiverse folks or things like that of that nature, we've actually even at the executive level, we now have a strong focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion. So what we've done is we've implemented a bunch of policies on things like, of course, accessibility policies and things like that on our various applications. But we've also created cross-functional working groups, which have helped us sort of identify different areas within the organization, including technology, which is a group that I was on, that we could find opportunities to bring new experiences or new supports to folks in different environments. So for example, in your in-home environment or online, social, what things should we be considering to make sure that we are creating like an equitable environment where people can engage? So for example, we had some conversations about with some partners who deal with folks on the autism spectrum. And through that program, we went through and we figured out some opportunities we may have to make it easier for folks on the spectrum to come and enjoy our games in venue. Some of them are technology things, like adding things Jeff had mentioned. We're probably going to get into the team apps at some point, so we could potentially put some educational material in a team app or on social or something like that. Or other things we could do as well inside the venue itself to sort of like give folks an opportunity to, take away some of the apprehension of coming into the event. So, as Jeff said, like speeding up the timeline, making sure we make it easy for people to come on to the technologies we have is key. But if you're thinking about diversity and equality in a larger scale, we're just sort of focusing on more and more, and we're gonna like roll out some new initiatives to make sure that we are creating an environment where people feel comfortable being online or in person, no matter who they are, to come in and enjoy our teams.
Thanks, David. And Lenny, from a Tradable Bits perspective, as you roll out products, work with partners like the Spurs, like MLSE, how are you guys, keeping in mind the inclusivity angle that's all important as you're building these digital environments where people are interacting with more people than they ever might possibly interact with in person, and there's just different types of interactions as well. How does Tradable Bits approach this subject?
Well, looking at it as part of the unique nature of the digital arena is that you're having anyone be able to join and join into the game and that community itself. They didn't have to pay for a ticket, that they may not have been able to afford. The community is really like coming together, and you see the same people coming back over and over again, but new people are coming in and say, oh, it's my first time here. And they're very inviting in the conversations and stuff going on. Every game that you might see in Raptors or Leafs in the chat, it's my birthday, and like everyone's congratulating, happy birthday, or the mod calls them out, the dinner host, just analogy like Jeff had sort of said. And whenever a mod mentions anyone in the chat, they're so happy. You can kind of see the reaction and the chat back and forth interaction. I remember seeing one of them where they said this is there was some banter back and forth between someone and the moderator, and they reply back, this is like the most fun I've ever had watching a game in my life, right? They're not even at a game, but they're just watching at home, and they're around a community, and they're making friends. And people talk about like, oh, I'm going to go to the game at this day, and I sit in this section, we should meet up. So like waiting for the day that we find out that a couple got married because of they met on Digital Arena, right? That's the when we know we nailed it on the community side of things.
Love that. What a great litmus test there. Austin J, you have an excellent question here that I want to get to. And I think it's at the kind of the crux, guys, here of this panel here today. What's been your favorite / most exciting example of a digital VIP experience recently? And are there ways that you're trying to replicate the same feeling of the in-person VIP experiences in digital? Who wants to tackle that one first? I won't call on any of you, but we'll appreciate someone jumping in.
We had a pretty good story of a VIP experience last year that we tested out, which I think pairs well with kind of what fans might be expecting in terms of like a DoorDash product, Uber Eats, and something that really attaches to that segment of our audience. So in Digital Arena, once you came in, you signed up. If you were within a zip code or a region of San Antonio, we partnered with HEB, which is our local grocer here in Texas and San Antonio, and we put together a swag bag, and it's basically a box of gifts with part in arena giveaway, what we would have used in a regular season, but then also with some stuff with HEB as well that was delivered to a fan's door within an hour of them signing up. So they came into the arena at the first quarter, and then by halftime, everybody got a gift box. We delivered over 400 of these in about a 90-minute span, and it did really well on social. Got a bunch of user-generated content out of it, and really it was a nice surprise and delight moment that we kind of just dropped in with a day's notice of a little bit of a promotion. But that was probably the best VIP experience that we've had, and I don't think I've seen something replicated like that before. How we take that over to like an in-person VIP experience, I think from that standpoint, it's really just about personalization and how you can make benefits exclusive to people and make them feel like they're, again, just special. And then how do you personalize it? So what Lenny gets is different than what David gets. So not only is it exclusive, but it's personalized to each individual. The more that we can do that, the more that we can predict what people like, what people want, and what people expect, and then exceed those expectations, I think is where that VIP experience is going today and also in the future.
Great example, Chef. David?
Yeah, no, I think Jeff's example is a fantastic one. Even where it's going is it's probably what I would say as well. I guess my own personal experience, and it's still around Digital Arena, but it goes back. You asked at the beginning of this where it all came from. Well, it started in a beta phase, actually. So in the beta phase was around members, so VIP. And so creating that experience, all the stuff we've talked about before, so I won't dwell on it too much, but to see that, we really wanted to drive some value to our member base, again, because they couldn't go to the games early on, so we put them in the arena as a group, and then to see that evolve and the friendships evolve was fantastic. It was just, again, a bit of a sucker for, again, seeing people actually genuinely being happy. So like smiles when someone scores, or family coming into the arena. I'm a real sucker for that. So that's the closest
just wait till David gets invited to that wedding.
It'll be. I'll officiate it. But anyway, so that for me was huge. It was really an awe-inspiring moment. We've done plenty of great things since then, but that one was awe-inspiring. As far as bringing it into the physical, it is all about like just really personalization, just really understanding who the fan is, and what their interests are and what their behaviors are, and then catering a very personalized experience to them, be it from like food and beverage to retail to just any kind of content around their favorite athletes and interviews and things like that. Bringing that all together in a seamless way that's just pushed to them, and they just feel like they're constantly getting value that they didn't even know was possible. That's the future. That's where that's all got to go.
The true surprise and delight approach. Absolutely.
On the regular.
Yeah. Lenny, I'd love for you to have a chance to address this question as well, and then we'll get to one that's on a major
For me, it's actually more like the basic things that you do in Digital Arena. Like if you go to a game and you try to do the only one person wins the t-shirt toss, or and they can do the half court shot or things like that, but everyone can participate in the games, and they get really competitive if you see the trivia and the points and stuff like that in the leaderboard. Everyone's clamoring to get the prizing and stuff like that too. So I think that's special in its own right, because that's something that you normally wouldn't be able to do in the live arena experience. Like usually it's one person that they pick up to get in front of like the camera and the host, and then, choose the 3-card Monty, Tim Hortons, whatever activation thing that you might do to see where the hidden puck is, right? Now everybody gets to participate in that. The other things like where the teams have done AMAs with alumni players, or even the Raptor or Nav the Superfan, like the whole community loves that stuff, right? That's unique. That's a different experience that they never would have been able to have. So I think boiling down to just even some of the basics that we have already as features that people are using in Digital Arena make that more unique and more special than the normal way they might consume a game.
You bring up a good point of just innovation in general, where at the beginning of the pandemic, we switched to digital, and there was a lot of interactive features that was developed through that evolution. And I think some things that we're now seeing is the innovation go back to in Arena, where it can be more interactive, and it's not just a passive audience during timeouts, or like you were saying, you look up at the board. Valera, one of our partners, it's a dot race, but how do you make that then interactive so everybody can participate? And then you can prize out with it as well, or everybody gets a prize at the same time. I think it makes experiences more accessible, makes them more interactive. And we've actually learned a lot from moving to digital to how we can take advantage of that in Arena in the physical space as well.
Yeah, I think and the sky's kind of limit there. It's again, we focusing on R&D and other things that we can bring our fans, and by extension, our client team, our partner teams, fans, like bringing those experiences in and make them more accessible. Looking at really cool stuff like mixed reality type stuff is the kind of stuff we'd be liking to dig into as well, to continue to sort of blur the lines between the in-person and venue and the home experience, but to also really drive that regular engagement. Because only one person or a handful of people want the t-shirt toss kind of thing, but if we can find a way to bring that kind of a digital experience into the venue and make it really, really compelling, that's just going to really bring, again, surprise and delight to more people more frequently, even in venue. So
I'm waiting for the day where we do the in Arena versus Digital Arena fans like facing off on things, and that'll be really, really fun to be able to see.
That and Raptors versus Spurs Digital Arena. I want to something we've been playing with a little bit. Talking to the team about that recently. That'd be really something we'd be interested in.
I love that, Jay. Yeah, the two tribes being able to compete at something. I mean, it's similar to kind of, you have watch parties, and sometimes you have two different cities compete against something. I think that there could be something there as well. So maybe then the next time we're matched up, maybe there's a collaboration there.
Yeah, totally.
Great idea.
Who's the common sponsor? That's all we need, right?
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun to sit with the product and research team and just hear the ideas flowing out of them for things like this. It's a lot of fun.
Guys, we have just a couple minutes left. I'd love to get one more audience question here, and it's one on NFTs. It's like one of the biggest trends this year. I feel like we have to ask it. Craig S., thank you for the question. What is your stance on NFTs, and how can teams and leagues leverage this tech to create desirable incentives for fans? I would tweak a little bit to add, can it be a part of the experience you guys were just outlining with the Digital Arena or the in-person engagement, as these collective fan bases, both digital and in person, kind of start to engage more and more as a cohesive unit or kind of group? So how do NFTs play into all that? Lenny, do you want to kick us off if you don't mind? Your thoughts?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, NFTs are definitely being more accepted these days. I think when you can start to merge the digital and the physical component together, that'll be really interesting. So like when you can start to see commemorative ticketing or whatever it is, and that includes a special like limited edition NFT as part of it, like now you're having the combo of those things come together. I think that's a unique proposition for everyone, versus maybe a younger generation that really just cares more about the digital goods than the physical goods too. But so many opportunities to build around content and unique things within the NFT space as it becomes more acceptable as a medium.
Mm-hmm. David?
Yeah, I mean, NFTs are a whole can of worms. Christian, he's my buddy. He's super passionate about NFTs and the metaverse and the hybrid, like the bringing together of the digital and the physical and how that all looks in the future. And NFTs are obviously a big part of that. I mean, I think for me, the thing about NFT that's going to be a big focus is more and more, especially in the next generation, their digital identity and their digital world is every bit as important as their personal. So from that, the concept of ownership and the persistence of something in a decentralized way is what matters. So like the tickets, for example, right now they're a transient thing because they're digital. There's no paper stubs anymore, but it might be a big moment in my life. Took my son to his first hockey game. I want to keep that and have it forever and hand it off and give it to him when he's older. That doesn't exist today, and it needs to exist. It brings that emotional attachment back to a lot of things and sort of bridges that gap. And by bridging that gap into the digital space, and it is stuff rooted in the teams, and the players and all that, then it tightens that connection, tightens that fandom, bridges it into the digital space. So I think there's a lot of things that NFT and NFTs are heading towards in the future beyond just like the regular drops in art and things of that nature. And I think the big focus for us, it's obviously on our NFT platform and things like that, but where do they fit in the overall fan journey and the future when this digital world becomes just that more ingrained in our day-to-day lives?
Jeff, you want to get us out of here? 20, 30 seconds left. Sorry to squeeze you in that.
I think there's a lot to be learned. It's a very new space. It's obviously a very hot topic. I think as a utility, just using blockchain and be able to have just a record of ownership is obviously going to change just society and different things in different ways. But I think as we look at fan engagement, there's going to be a lot of different things that we're testing out in what resonates with fans. But I think it's going to be a lot of testing and seeing what works.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lenny, Jeff, David, we touched on a lot. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you very much to the audience. Excellent questions. I'm glad we could do our best to get to some of them. For the attendees, up next, we have a really cool session located in the Handshake tab. It's called Meet Next League, a necessary ally in tech services. And that is with David Nugent, CEO of Next League, and it'll be a really unique presentation there. And then after that, we're on to track 2, all about blockchain. Nice segue from our way we ended it here. We're talking about NFTs. So guys, again, thank you very much. And thank you to the audience. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.